Hi guys, you're welcome to today's class, and today we are going to be talking about the cell. So what is the cell? What are the components of the cell? And what are the functions of the organelles of the cells? So that is what we are going to be looking into. So pick your paper and your pen and let's get started. Hi guys. Yeah, welcome back. Now you'll be wondering why I'm holding a page, as in a book rather. So, but what I need actually is just a page. Now, this book is made up of what? It is made up of pages. So, a lot of pages. But this single page, it is made up of what? Just pieces of what? Of papers combined together to form a whole page. Now, let's do some kind of experiment. So, this paper now, can I still divide it? Of course, yes, I can. So, let's do like this. And then out. We still have these now, right? Now, can I still divide this as well? Of course, yes, I can. Then let's do like this now. So then, what next? Can I still divide this? Of course, I should be able to. But can I divide this? I doubt that. It is so small that you might even not be able to see it from that video. So, this is the smallest. So, the smallest part of what? The smallest part of a whole page. And now, if that be the case, it means the combination of this smallest particle gives us the what? So give us the whole page. So it forms the what? The structure of that book. It is the smallest, but still it is the what? It is the structural what? It is the structural formation of that whole page. And now if we say we are writing something on a page of paper, it means we are actually writing on those small pieces of paper to bring about the function of reading and writing as well. So if that be the case, that smallest piece of paper is the cell. And from that, we can actually come up with the definition of the what? Of the cell. And what is that? A cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of life. And functional unit of what now? Of life. Now we are not talking about a book. We are talking about human life. So, if you want to use acronym for this definition, you can just say cell is the SSF of what? Of life. So the smallest structural and functional unit. The smallest structural and functional unit of what? Of life. As simple as that. Now, the next thing you're supposed to know is what I call the component of a cell. The components of a cell. Now, what is the meaning of that? The word component in front here, it means makeup. Makeup? It means makeup. And I'm not talking about Mary Kay here actually. So the word makeup, it means what something contains. Now, if the question says, what is the makeup of my dressing? We're talking about a glass. We're talking about what? A shirt. So a trouser. So those are the things that what? That make up my what? My dressing. So the component means makeup. So if we say the makeup of a cell, it means what are those things that form the cell? And the answer is not far-fetched. We have three components of a cell. So it means the cell is made up of three things. The first one is called the cell membrane. The cell what? The cell membrane. And the second one is called what? It's called the nucleus. And the last one is called cytoplasm and its organelle. Cytoplasm and its organelle. So cytoplasm and its organelles. Now, what's the meaning of all these things? We are going to pick them one after the other. So let's start with this cell membrane alone. Now, cell membrane, what is the function of a cell membrane? Now, I used to liken the cell, the topic cell, with what? With a village. So let's assume that we have a village like this, and this is the boundary of that village. The village is going to have a king. So let's assume that the king is living right here. And then they are going to have chiefs. Now, this very boundary of that village is the cell membrane. And then the king is the nucleus. And the chiefs, they are the organelles. I hope you get that. We're still going to make to lay more emphasis on that later in this video. Now the point is, we are talking about the cell membrane now. So if cell membrane is the boundary of that village, what is the function of the boundary? The function of the boundary is one, to do what? to protect the village. So against invaders. To protect what? The village. If there is war, they are going to come to the boundary to fight so that the people in the town are not going to be affected. So the boundary, the first function of the boundary is what? Is protection. So same thing goes with the what? With the cell membrane. The cell membrane is responsible for protecting the cell. So apart from that, what is the function of the boundary? The boundary used to possess gates that will allow people to either go in or what? Or out. So if that be the case, it allows particles to move in and out of the cell. That is the second function of what? Of the cell membrane. Allows particles to move in and out. To move in and out of the what? Of the cell. Or you can change this sentence by saying it dictates what goes in and out of the cell. As simple as that for the what? For the cell membrane. But we are not done. This cell membrane as well, it has its own components. So let's clean the board and let's talk about that. So stay tuned. Yeah, welcome back. Now talking about the cell membrane. Cell membrane. We've known that the function of the cell membrane is to do what? One, to protect the cell itself. And the second thing is to do what? Is to dictate what goes in and out of the cell. Now, if that be the case, we have the component of cell membrane as well. So the cell membrane has majorly two components. The first one is called the membrane lipid. Membrane what? Membrane lipids. And the second one is called the membrane protein. Membrane protein. And now, what is the meaning of that? Before that, let me quickly open your eye to something right here. We said if we have a cell like this, that this thin line outside is the cell membrane, right? But looking under a microscope, if you are checking this line, it is more than what you are just seeing. So if we magnify it, we make it bolder under the microscope, we are going to get something of this nature. So let me do it this way. So it's going to give you something of this nature. So we're going to have this. Now, this is what you are going to what? This is what you are going to find under what? Under an electron microscope. So this is what that thin line, very thin line, that cell membrane, this is what it looks like. And now, you'll be thinking this diagram is complex, but trust me, it is not. So before the end of this class, you'll be able to label each and everything that is actually found in this what? In this diagram. Now, let's start now. We said membrane lipid and what? And membrane protein. Now we have two types of what? Of membrane protein. So which means under the membrane protein we have two types. The first one is called the integral protein. Integral what? Protein. And the second one is called the peripheral protein. Now what are the integral protein and what are the peripheral protein? The integral proteins, they are the proteins that are found within the cell membrane. Within the what? Within the cell membrane. That is, they protrude, they project into the cell membrane. While the peripheral are found on the outer surface of the what? Of the cell membrane. As simple as that. Now, if that be the case, let me now say A, B, and C are the membrane proteins. So which ones are going to be the integral and which ones are going to be the peripheral? We said the integral protein are found within the cell membrane, while the peripheral are found on the outer surface of the cell membrane. If that be the case, then our A here is found within the cell membrane. So our A is going to be an integral protein. Integral. Now the B is found on the outer surface. So the B is going to be the peripheral protein. And the C will now be what now? It's going to be an integral because it is found within the cell membrane. As simple as that. Now, that is that about the proteins. So a quick recap. You said the cell membrane has two components, the membrane lipid and the what? The membrane protein. So the membrane protein has two types. The first one is the integral, which are found within the cell membrane, and the peripheral are found on the what? On the outer surface of the cell membrane. Now talking about membrane lipids now. We have three types of membrane lipids. The first one is called phospholipid. Phospho what? Phospholipid. The second one is called the glycolipid. And the last one is called cholesterol. Now, what is the meaning of this phospholipid? Let's take a look at this diagram. We see some kind of structures that are actually aligned in the opposite direction. So we have this structure right here. This structure. And then this one is backing it. So these structures are called the phospholipid. And they have two parts. So the first part is this place. We call it the head. And this part is called the tail. So these two things, they are the tail. Are we getting that? Now this head and this tail, they have their own characteristic. This head is what we call hydrophobic. So it is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic in nature. So for us to see it clear, hydrophilic. But this tail is hydrophobic. Hydro what? Hydrophobic. Now what's the meaning of that? The word hydrophilic, whenever you see the word hydro in anatomy, go and add this to the back of your anatomical terms. So hydro means water, and the word philic is from philia, and it means loving or liking. Why the word phobic is from the word phobia, and it means hating or fearing. If that be the case, if they say what is the characteristic of the head of phospholipid, so the characteristic of the head of the phospholipid is what? Is hydrophilic, which means it is what? Hydro, water, philic, loving. So the head is water loving, as simple as that. But the tail would now be what? Hydro, water, phobic, hating or fearing. So the tail is what? Is water hating. And now what is the significance of all these things? We said the head is hydrophilic in nature, which means it loves water. Now let me ask you a question. Where are we going to find a human being? Is it where the person likes or where the person hates? It is where he loves, because our heart is always where we love. And because the head is hydrophilic, which means it is water loving, we are going to find the head in what? In water. And that is what we are going to see on the hydrophilic head. So you say the phospholipid has two parts. The hydrophilic head, which is water loving, and so therefore it is found in what? In water. And the hydrophobic tail, which is water hating. Now, if it is water hating, are we going to find it in water? No. On the other way around, it is found in cholesterol. And cholesterol are all these dots that I put there. So they are called the what? Cholesterol. I hope you understand that. So the tail is water hating. So therefore, it is not found in water, but in what? In cholesterol. So cholesterol are found between the hydrophobic tails of the phospholipid. What do I mean by that? Is that sentence complex? No, it is not. Just listen to me one more time. I said this cholesterol, if you want to define it now, you can start with their location. So cholesterols, they are found, where? Between the hydrophobic tail. We said this is the tail now, and it is hydrophobic in nature. It means we find this cholesterol between what? Between the hydrophobic tails of phospholipid. That's where we find them. I hope you get that. It is found within the hydrophobic tails of what? Of phospholipid. Now what are they doing there? So let's say we have a phospholipid there, another phospholipid right here. And now this is the tail of this phospholipid, and this is the head. So this is the tail of this phospholipid too, and this is the head. And from this diagram, we know that the arrangement is tail to tail. Now, if that be the case, can I put this on top of this one without it falling? It's going to fall. So to prevent it from falling, what can I do? I can actually add super glue. So something like Oteco. So to this junction, and then it's going to fix it very well. So that function of super glue, the function of that Oteco, is the function of the cholesterol between the two phospholipids. So it is ensuring the what? The stability of the cell membrane. So you can define cholesterol by saying they are found where? Between the hydrophobic tails of the phospholipid. Now, what are they doing here? Where they perform the function of doing what? Of maintaining the cell membrane stability. And that is that on what? That is that on the cholesterol. So now the final one, which is the glycolipid. The glycolipid is from two words. The word, okay, let's label this to phospholipid. Phospholipid. So, glycolipid now. Glycolipid is from two words. The first one is this glyco. Glyco is from the word glycogen. And glycogen means a stored sugar. Stored what? Stored sugar. So, and lipid means what? Fat. So, if you want to define glycolipid, you can say they are stored sugar attached with what? With fat. Or you say attached with lipid. As simple as that. And then they are found on the what? On the surface of the cell membrane. So, these are the what? The glycolipid. I hope you get that. So, and that is that on the what? On the cell membrane. But a quick recap. We said the cell membrane, it has two components. The first one is the what? Membrane lipid. And the other one is the what? Membrane protein. We said we have two types of membrane protein. We have the integral protein and the peripheral protein. Now, if that be the case, we said the integral protein are found within the cell membrane, while the peripheral are found on the outer surface of the cell membrane. And now for the membrane lipid, we have three types. We have the phospholipid, glycolipid, and the cholesterol. So for this phospholipid, we said they have an head and a what and a tail. So the head is hydrophilic in nature, which means hydro, water, philic, loving. They are water loving. And so therefore they are found in what? In water. But for this hydrophobic tail, they are water eating. So therefore they are found in what? In cholesterol. And then we went straight up to the cholesterol. We said the cholesterol, they are found between what? Between the hydrophobic tails of the phospholipid, where they perform the what? The function of maintaining the cell membrane stability. As simple as that. And finally, we talk about the glycolipid. We said they are stored sugar from the word glycogen attached with what? With lipid. And they are found on the surface of what? Surface of the cell membrane. So let's talk about the nucleus. So I'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. Now, talking about the second component of the cell called the nucleus. Now, for this nucleus, do not forget, I said in a village you have to have a boundary, then the king, and then the chiefs. Now, this nucleus is actually the king, and it is located centrally. So it is located at the what? At the central part of the what? Of the cell. And what does it look like? It looks like this. Now, this nucleus, it is covered by something called the nuclear envelope. The nuclear what? The nuclear envelope. But you can see that this nuclear envelope is not covering it completely. It has some kind of what? Some kind of pores. Holes right here. So these holes are called nuclear pore. Nuclear what? Nuclear pore. So, the function of this nuclear pore is just like the function of a cell membrane. It dictates what goes in and out of the nucleus. So, the function of this nuclear envelope is just what? Is to cover the what? The nucleus. It's protecting the nucleus. As simple as that. So, the nuclear envelope and the nuclear pore can be likened to the what? To the cell membrane. One, because the nuclear envelope protects the nucleus, while the cell membrane protects the what? The cell. And then the nuclear pore of the nuclear membrane, it allows things to move in and out of the nucleus. Same thing with the cell membrane. It dictates what goes in and out of the cell. If that be the case, what next about this nucleus? This nucleus contains two things. The first one is called the chromatin. Chromatin. And the second thing is called nucleus. Nucleus. Now, what about these two guys? This chromatin, it actually contains something called DNA. DNA. And now the question is, what is the meaning of DNA? The meaning of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. So, deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. Now the question is, what is the function of this DNA? The function of DNA starts with D, and that is duplication. Or you call it replication. Or what? Or replication. What is the meaning of this? It means anywhere in the cell that you find DNA, that thing is going to be duplicated. Duplication or replication means forming copies, like photocopies. If I have this one marker now and then it turns to 10 inside the cell, it means this marker has what? DNA. So the function of DNA is photocopy. So duplication or what? Or replication. As simple as that. Now, the next one is what? Is this nucleus. This nucleus, it contains RNA. Now the question is, what is the full meaning of RNA? The full meaning of RNA is ribonucleic acid. So RNA. Now what is the function of RNA? The function of RNA starts with S. Alphabetically, after R, the next thing is what? Is S. So the function is synthesis of protein. Synthesis of what? Of protein. So the word synthesis means production. So the function of RNA is synthesis or production of what? Of protein. It means anything that you find inside the cell that contains RNA, the function of that thing will be to what? To synthesize protein. And that is all about the what? About the nucleus. Now, a quick recap. The nucleus is the king of the cell. So therefore, it has an AKA that is also known as, it is called the control center. Control what? Control center of the cell. Because it controls all the activities going on in the cell. And now, it is covered by a membrane called the what? Nuclear envelope. And after that, the nuclear envelope, it possesses holes or pores called what? The nuclear pore. And now the nucleus contains two things. The first one is the chromatin. And the chromatin in turns now contains what? DNA. So the function of the DNA is duplication, just like D for duplication or replication. And the function of this nucleus is what? It contains RNA. And then the function of RNA starts with S. After R, we have S. And that is synthesis of protein. And the meaning of that is what? Production of protein. As simple as that. So, it means anything that has DNA in the cell will be found in multiples. It's like in 2, 3, 4, 5, so or more. And anything that possesses what? Anything that possesses RNA will perform a function which is what? Synthesis of what? Protein. As simple as that. So let's clean the board and talk about the cytoplasm and its organelles. But before that, let's start with the organelles. Because normally nucleus itself is what? It's an organelle. So I'm going to bring in some things in the next scene. So that are attached to this nucleus. So you can get a better understanding of the organelles and the cytoplasm. So I'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. Now, talking about the organelles, let me explain the meaning of cytoplasm first. Let's talk about the cytoplasm and its organelles first. Cytoplasm and its organelles. And its organelles. Now, what's the meaning of cytoplasm? Now, I'm very sure that we must have seen the snacks vendors preparing their snacks. So the first thing they will do is to carry out a frying pan, a very large one. And the next thing is that they are going to pour a jelly-like fluid inside it. And that jelly-like fluid can be palm oil or groundnut oil or any oil of choice. And after then, they will bake the flour and they start putting it, they will start suspending it inside the what? Inside that frying pan. Now, that jelly-like fluid, that palm oil, is the cytoplasm. So if you want to define that palm oil now, you can say the palm oil is a what? Is a jelly-like fluid in which what? The baked flour are suspended. So like jelly-like fluid ní òróró yẹn àbí epo yẹn tí àwọn what? Tí àwọn flowers yẹn tó ti bake sílẹ̀ tí wọ́n jù wọ́n sínú ẹ̀ suspended. So if you want to define your cytoplasm like that, you can actually tilt that definition and say the cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid in which all the cell organelles are what? Are suspended. So the cell organelles are on the snacks. Why the cytoplasm are the what? Is the palm oil rather, or the granite oil. So that's the oil. So if you want to define cytoplasm, you can say it's a what? A jelly-like fluid. A jelly-like fluid in which all the cell organelles are what? Are suspended. As simple as that. Now let's pick the cell organelles. I said we are going to start all the way again from the nucleus and attach some things to it. So I would like to rub this part and then we proceed. So let's say we have the nucleus right here. The nucleus. And then the nucleus is covered by what? Nuclear envelope. We've said that before. And after that, we said we have two things inside this place. Now, I'm going to leave the chromatin alone. So let's talk about the nucleus, which is inside it. Now, this nucleus, this structure inside is called nucleus. This nucleus, it has another name, and that name is what we call the ribosome manufacturing machine. Ribosome manufacturing machine. Now, what is the meaning of that? It means this nucleus, it is the machine that manufactures or produces ribosome. Now, the question is ribosome. Let's make it a kind of relationship between the father and child, or let me say the parents and their children. So this nucleus is the parent, Oni Baba or Oni Iya, or the two at the same time. And then ribosome, Oni Omo, the child that they give birth to. So it means ribosomes is inside what? Is inside the nucleus. Ribosome. And now, this ribosome, this nucleus, it has an entry and an exit. So on a can be by and now at that exit or the entry, we have some things they're called RNA. RNA. So a lot of RNAs are found on the entry or the exit of what? Of the nucleus. Now, this ribosome, when it becomes matured, they are going to try to do what? To migrate out of the what? Out of this nucleus. But before then, let me quickly bring you some things. Shall you see this pore? We have some organs, or organelles rather there, that are attached to it. So these organelles are called ER. ER. So it means endoplasmic reticulum. Endo what? Endoplasmic reticulum. Now, we have two types of these organelles. So we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, I don't want to divert too much before coming back to them. Let's come back here. So, we said nucleus, it contains ribosome because it is the one producing them. And they used to call it ribosome manufacturing machine. Now, if that be the case, we said these ribosome, when they are matured, they will try to migrate out of what? Out of their parents' house. Just like when we're 18 years old or more, we try to what? To leave home. So, once this ribosome, when it concludes to do what? To leave. So, as it's moving out, there's this certain advice that our parents used to give to us. They will be like, so don't join bad gangs. So do not mingle with bad friends. And that's what they used to say. And then they used to give us a proverb, especially if you are actually from Yoruba tribe. They will say, "Aguntan to baba jani, o ma shekini, o ma jegbe." So that same advice is what this nucleus is going to give to ribosome. But for real, even before some of us, even before we left home, we've actually been corrupted. So exactly it's the same thing with this ribosome. So as this ribosome is trying to migrate, to move out of the parent's house, it's going to meet RNA along the way. And then RNA is going to be attached with it. Which means this ribosome now, it will now contain what? It will contain RNA. Now, this ribosome, some are going to make their way out of the what? Out of the nucleus through the nuclear pore, and then they are going to settle in the cytoplasm. And these ones are called the what? The free floating ribosome. The free what? The free floating ribosomes. Now the question I have for you is, what is the function of ribosome? It is very simple. Ribosome has been attached with what? With RNA. And now go back to your nucleus. The function of RNA is what? After R we have S, which is synthesis of protein. Now, because this ribosome, it has the little function before. So that is the what? But because it was attached by the what? By the RNA, RNA, which means it has to drop sheet. So The function of this ribosome now will be the function of RNA. RNA ma co-function yẹn ma co now, which means the function of this ribosome will be to do what? To synthesize protein. Synthesize protein. That is the function of what? Of ribosome. Now, that one apart. You see, these ribosomes, some will actually pass through this free space and they are going to settle in what? In cytoplasm, called the free floating ribosome. But some, they are going to miss their way. They will miss their what? They will miss their road. So, and then they will migrate like this and try to pass out through this pore. But look at this pore. Some organelles have been attached to it, called the endoplasmic reticulum. So instead of this ribosome to go into this free floating space, they are going to be attached with what? They are going to be attached with this endoplasmic reticulum. And when they attach themselves with this endoplasmic reticulum, what will happen? Don't forget, I said we have two types of endoplasmic reticulum. I said the first one is what? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And the second one is what? The rough endoplasmic reticulum. So because this ribosome, they got themselves attached with this endoplasmic reticulum, they will turn this endoplasmic reticulum into rough, which is the second type of what? Of endoplasmic reticulum. Now I have a question for you at this junction. If you are using that proverb, like if you are using that proverb, what will be the function of endoplasmic reticulum? Very simple. The function of endoplasmic reticulum, the rough one now, will be to do what? To synthesize protein too. Because they've actually got bad companies from what? From all these ribosomes. And since the function of ribosome from its father's house is to synthesize protein, it means the function of rough endoplasmic reticulum is to do what? Is to synthesize protein too. It has other functions, but this is one of the what? Chief functions. I hope you get that. Now, we are done with the rough endoplasmic reticulum. What about the smooth? If you want to draw the smooth, we don't attach it to this nucleus. Because this one as well is going to be attached with ribosome later. And it will turn to rough as well. So if you want to draw a smooth endoplasmic reticulum, you are going to draw it like a plantain. And then make it smaller. So, we need to stop here. If you want to add more, you can. So this is what? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Now, why is it smooth? Because there is no ribosome attached to it. So, this smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum, you can actually use this this gift that our parents are used to give to us whenever they go on travel. We call it docule. Yes, the docule. So you know the docule, it is going to be attached with what? Seeds. So the pepper seeds will be sprinkled all over it. But if you fry your plantain at home rather, it is going to be smooth, no pepper attached. So the point is, that plantain that you fried within your own kitchen is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. But the docule is what? Is the rough endoplasmic reticulum because it has seeds of pepper, which is what? Ribosomes. Now, if the function of this rough endoplasmic reticulum is to synthesize protein because it has been attached to what? Ribosomes, then the function of this smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the endoplasmic reticulum just think like rough is synthesizing protein already. And now dating back to our secondary school, if we are reciting our classes of food, we say carbohydrates, protein. The next thing is what? Fat and oil. So the smooth endoplasmic reticulum will leave protein alone and it will go to the next class of food. Like, let me not argue with what? With rough endoplasmic reticulum. Let me just go and synthesize the next class of food, which is what? Fat. So the function of this smooth endoplasmic reticulum is to synthesize what? Not protein now, but what? Fat. Fat is also called lipid. As simple as that. We've said that in the previous thing while introducing ourselves to the cell membrane. So that is that about this set of organelles. So a quick recap. The nucleus is covered by what? By nuclear envelopes. And the nuclear envelope possesses pores. So the function of the envelope is to do what? Is to protect the nucleus, and the pore allows things to move in and out of the what? Of the nucleus. After that, we said we have what? We said we have the nucleus inside this place. And this nucleus contains what? Ribosome and RNA. So because it is the one producing ribosome, they used to call it the what? Ribosome manufacturing machine. And ribosome, in an attempt to move out of the what? Of the nucleus, it gets itself attached with what? With RNA. And then some are going to go freely into cytoplasm. And then they are called the free floating ribosome. And their function is to synthesize protein. Why? because they contain RNA. And after that, we said some are going to be attached with endoplasmic reticulum, hereby turning the endoplasmic reticulum into what? Into rough endoplasmic reticulum. And because of that, the function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum is to do what? Is to synthesize protein. And after that, the function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is to do what? Is to synthesize lipid. As simple as that. So let's finish up the organelle in the next scene rather, and then we can call it today for the cell. And our next class will focus on the tissues. So I'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. Now, talking about the organelles, I'm going to introduce you to some organelles now. So, we've talked about the ribosomes. We said their function is to synthesize protein. And why? That is because they contain RNA. And then the function, we have two endoplasmic reticulum, the rough and the smooth. You see the rough endoplasmic reticulum, it is also called the granular endoplasmic reticulum. So, I said we have the smooth and the what? And the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So the other name for this rough endoplasmic reticulum is granular endoplasmic reticulum. Now, if granular means rough, but this one is not rough. In anatomy, when you see the word a or an, it means not, absence, or reduced. So that is the meaning of a or an in anatomy. Example of this is, let's say, um, anemia. So, anemia now. Anemia. This an means reduced in this context. Anemia means blood. So the person has reduced blood level. So for example, if you say avascular, that is for A alone. This A means no. Vascular means blood supply. So it means that thing is not supplied with what? With blood. You get that? So if rough means granular, but smooth is not rough, what will be the other name for smooth now? It will be a granular. So the other name for smooth endoplasmic reticulum is a granular endoplasmic reticulum. So we said the function of these, of rough rather, is to synthesize protein. And the function of the smooth is to synthesize lipid. They have other functions, so we're talking about them as we move on. Now apart from that, I gave you the ribosome, the endoplasmic reticulum, and after that, we have some other organelles too. Example is what we call the mitochondria. Mitochondria. You know I said this cell can be likened to what's a village. And now when it is time for war, you know, in the Yoruba films, they used to do what? They would tell the youth to go to the Balogun's house to get power to fight. So this mitochondria can be regarded as the Balogun. Why? Because it contains all the power, all the energy necessary for what? For the cellular activities. So therefore, they call this mitochondria the powerhouse. That is another name for what? Another name for mitochondria. And because it's called the powerhouse, it is the one responsible for producing all the energy required for the what? For cellular activity. And apart from that, it contains something called DNA. So it contains what? DNA. Now, let me ask you a question. If it contains DNA, what's going to happen to it? The question you should ask yourself is, what is the function of DNA? It is duplication or replication, which means photocopy. So therefore, it means you can't find one mitochondria in the cell. You're going to find a lot of mitochondria in the cell. Mitochondrion is the singular, I'm sorry about that. So the point is, because it contains DNA, that DNA is responsible for duplicative characteristic. So that is that about the what? About the powerhouse called the mitochondria. Apart from that, we have other organelles as well, such as the Golgi body. So the Golgi body, they look like this. You can use your L to draw your Golgi body. L. And then add vesicle on top and below. Vesicles on top and below. So we call them the Golgi what? The Golgi body. Another name for them is Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus. Apart from this diagram, you can also use your C or curve to draw it. To draw them rather. So, like curve. So, continue the curve. So, add a vesicle on top and add your vesicle below. Now, what's the function of these guys here? The function of the Golgi body or the Golgi apparatus is just to serve as an immigrant or emigrant. Just put that at the back of your mind. We said it's a village, right? We see some people trying to migrate out of the what? Out of the village. And to do that, they are going to pack all their what? All their loads. They pack everything they own in that very village. So, and then they put the bag at their back and then they travel out of the what? Out of that village. So that is the function of the Golgi apparatus. Their function is to do what? Is to modify, like rearrange and package. Now, what are they packaging? This is not a village for me. It's a cell. So they're not packing their own goods now. So what they modify and package is that they modify and package materials across where now? Across the cell membrane. Across the what? The cell membrane. So they modify the materials and they pass them across the what? The cell membrane. As simple as that. So that's the function of what? Of the Golgi apparatus. Apart from that, we have other organelles such as the what? The centriole. Centriole, they lie 90 degrees to themselves. Just 90 degrees. So you see that this is what? 90 degrees. So they lie 90 degrees to themselves. They are called the centriole. Centriole what? Centriole. And their function is to do what? They form what we call spindle fiber. So form spindle fiber during cell division. They form spindle fiber during what? During cell division. So leave that alone for now. I will tell you that I'm talking about mitosis and meiosis some other times. Now, apart from that, what next? We have other organelles in the cell as well. But when I start drawing the cell, I'll be remembering them and I'll be giving you their function. So that is that on what? On the cell. So let's bring a grand diagram of the cell. So and let's label it. So I'll be back. Pardon? So you draw a spherical shape first, or almost spherical. Now, after doing this, you label. So the outermost part is the cell membrane. So you have your cell membrane right here. And then the next component is what? The nucleus. So you come to the middle. So this is your nucleus. Nucleus. And the nucleus is covered by what? The nuclear envelope. So nuclear envelope. And after that, you have your what? You have the pores, the spaces between it. So they are called rather the nuclear pore. Nuclear pore. And after that, we said within the nucleus, we have two things there. So we have one called the chromatin. Chromatin. And the other one is called the what? The nucleus. Nucleus. And after that, you have your what? You have this rough endoplasmic reticulum. The rough endoplasmic reticulum. So they are attached with what? With ribosomes. Now, you label that as what? As the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, an examination condition you don't abbreviate, right in full. So, I'm just doing this because this is just a coaching class. So, the next one, you draw your what? You know the ribosome, they are going to move out. So, you draw your ribosomes. So, ribosomes. So, the ribosomes. Now, I forgot something. You know, the function of ribosome is to do what? Is to synthesize protein. So, we have an organelle that works directly against it. And that organelle is called lysosome. Lyso what? Lysosome. You draw O and write X inside it. Lysosome. Now, what is the function of this lysosome? If this guy is synthesizing protein, is producing protein, the lysosome will be doing what? It will be breaking down the undigested protein. So from the word lys in front of it, it's from the word lysis. Lysis. And lysis means breakdown. Add that one to your anatomical terms. So the function of this lysosome is to break down what? Undigested protein. As simple as that. Now the next thing, we have our mitochondria. 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 And don't forget, I told you that you can't find just one in a cell. You have more. So I used to use mitochondria to beautify my cell. So mitochondria. So apart from that, we have some organelle called the what? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So you can bring them here. So you can use your plantain. So the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And after then, you have the Golgi apparatus. You said you can use your curved C or your L. So both are correct. So the Golgi what? The Golgi body. So Golgi body. And after that, can we still think of some other organelles? Of course, yes. We have the centriole, 90 degree. So they form the spindly fiber during cell division. So centriole. So apart from that, we can still come up with some other organelles like the periodisome, etc. But now, start putting dots at interval. Dots. So these dots, they are the cytoplasm. 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 And now let's count our labelings now. If we have 12, we are good to go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's the diagram of the cell. And then you label your diagram like this is the diagram of a human cell. Sure, we get that. So and that is the end of our class on cell. So in our next class, we'll be talking about the tissues. So until then, I wish you the best of luck. Bye guys.